Hello, friends. Welcome to Inspo Radio. We're going to start right off because I have a lot that I want to cover today. We're starting off with the hot topic of all hot topics, Luigi Mangione, and I want to take a look at his manifesto. And I want to energy read that manifesto because I think it has so much to teach us. And I also want to talk about why the media has kept it from us. And then after that, we are going to dive into one of these free energy readings that I've been doing with people just like you. I want to show you how we use energy reading, body language, vocal placement, and intuition as a healing tool. This is something I've never shared with anybody. Nobody knows anything about how I do this process, and you will be the first ones to ever see it here. So let's get started. I'm Cece Rice, and this is Inspo Radio.
Is your energy going to be like too much for me? Those kids, that family.
Will you have been the light of the day?
I like.
So the first big thing is that most of you, maybe all of you, have not seen or read through the entire manifesto. Now, I'm not talking about the notes in the spiral notebook. I'm talking about the prepared letter that Luigi wrote, which was found on him when he was arrested at that McDonald's. And it was reported only by Ken Klippenstein because the New York Times refused to publish it. Basically, everyone refused to publish it. News media outlets have only shown us clips and segments and bits and pieces of this. And there's a very clear reason for that, because they don't want us to see what this manifesto actually says. So I'm going to read it for you first, and then I'm going to dive into exactly what the energies are that show up in this manifesto. So here we go. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial, some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and a to-do list that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder. The U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42nd in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is these blank have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, example, Rosenthal, Moore, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. Doesn't sound like most manifestos you've ever heard, if you've ever spent any time reading manifestos from people who have done things on this kind of level. But I think that there is so much here that obviously nobody wants us to know who's implicated and how measured and careful this statement is, and also how non-inflammatory it is. You've probably heard the most inflammatory parts of this in bits and pieces because your view of Luigi is very much trying to be controlled and manipulated by the powers that be, specifically by a lot of the people that are actually named in this piece of text. The media for the past week or so, since they've had this, and they've all had it for a while, they have been sort of pontificating about mental illness and what his mental state was at the time or is now. And there's been a lot of suggestion about the fact that he must be mentally ill. He must have had a mental breakdown. And that is part of the reason why they have not shown us this full manifesto, because there's nothing about it that shows any kind of excessive energy in the crown or the third eye, which is where the brain is housed, which is where mental illness would show up. And it would also show up in communication. Now, when you write something down, that is a reflection of your inner voice, your interior. Most people don't necessarily write letters or manifestos like this by speaking them out loud. It is a concentrated process of typing what's going on up here. And that is why manifestos like this are usually published, because they help to frame whoever the person is as crazy. But for several reasons, I'm going to tell you why this isn't crazy. There's no grandiosity, which is one of the first things that you want to look for when somebody has left the realm of reality. There's also very little or no repetition. Repetition is essentially a trauma response where people feel the need to express something over and over again as they move through it. There's none of that. And there's also no personal stakes present. He says almost nothing about himself, nothing about personal association, nor does he say anything about the victim. So that's number one. There's not hatred in this. It's measured, it's intellectual, and it's calm. Also, the only time that he does talk about himself, it's in a self-sacrificial way. It had to be done, not I had to do it. So there's no personal stake in that, but just the personal stake in that it's something that needed to be done for, you can assume, the greater good, based on the rest of the writing. But also what's really important and takes it completely out of the realm of crazy, as the media has tried to purport, there's an apology. Sorry for making you go through this. I respect the feds and what you do. They don't want us to know that. In fact, that is the part that I think has been left out the most. He basically says, I want to make this easy for you. I'm not trying to cause you a hard time, and I don't want you to use a lot of resources, which is fascinating to me. So psychosis is an energy of an excessive crown, right? Basically means that there is so much energy going on up here that there isn't enough groundedness. There's not enough rooting in order to keep a person in a state of reality. And I'm going to describe for you what an excessive crown energy actually is so that you can really understand my point. But the energies that you would expect to be involved if there is psychosis would be the crown, the third eye, and the root. And so I want to go through each one of those for you so that you understand what the energies show up as when they're balanced, when they're deficient, and when they're excessive. Let's take a look at the crown first. If the crown was excessive, now I want to be very clear. When we talk about chakra energy or energy centers, blocked and open are not the correct language. The reason being is that it's energy. So just like any other energy form, the energy is either deficient, there's not enough to power the center, or the energy is excessive. There's too much energy moving through that energy center in order for it to be functioning properly, or the energy is balanced or close to it. So when it comes to crown energy, if the crown is excessive, that's where you'd be looking for mental illness, headaches, dizziness, stuff that's going on up here. It's also our connection to the spirit realm. So when a crown is excessive, we would see a lack of follow through. Nope, didn't see that. And we would also see a lack of accountability. Nope, ton of accountability. A belief that the spirit realm is more important than the physical realm. Absolutely none of that. No religious beliefs espoused and no pontificating about what the afterlife might be like and why we should be striving for that. So excessive energy, no. Deficient energy in the crown center would look like ethics and morals that are very unclear, easily swayed by the beliefs of others, and a codependency on authority figures. Absolutely not. In fact, quite the opposite. No dependency on what authority figures want or what they think, but rather a very clear ethic and moral system that is represented in that manifesto. Let's take a look at what a balanced crown would show up like. Strong sense of ethical responsibility. Responsibility being the key word. Remember that phrase, it had to be done? That's a phrase of responsibility and accountability. And it also expresses a lot of ethical concern. And the other thing is a strong moral compass. And this is interesting and this is debatable, and I can let you think what you want to think about that. But idealism, when it comes to the higher human or worldly potential, now that is what I see. An idealist. A person who says the world is showing up in one way and it doesn't have to be like this. And even though everybody sees it, nobody's doing anything about it. That is idealism, and that is representative of a balanced crown. If we were looking at an excessive third eye, intuitive center energy, this is where we feel into what will be, what should be, what the deeper realm of consciousness is like. This is also the inner voice. When that is excessive, we project onto others, we have self-absorption and a lack of focus. No lack of focus. Took a lot of focus to accomplish what he accomplished, and also no self-absorption. Like we talked about already, not talking about himself a whole lot. Now, when the third eye is deficient, we see challenges in learning new information, that we're ruled by fear, and that we have a limited perspective. None of that is present. If the third eye is balanced, what do we see? An ability to learn and develop and express and understand alternative perspectives. So there's a lot of perspective in this. Perspective from what the feds might be feeling. I don't want to, make you use your resources. I respect what you do. That's perspective. Here's another perspective. Statistics. Here's another perspective. What has been happening in the past. How we know about this issue. And even citing some sources. Rosenthal and whoever the other person was. So that's perspective. And then the last piece of a balanced third eye is intuition. The ability to perceive accurately future outcomes. The mere presence of a manifesto suggests that he had an accurate point of view and prediction of what would happen in his own future. Balanced. And of course, when we are looking at root energy. Now, some people might say the root rules the lower part of the body. What does this have to do with the brain? Well, you have a skull. So your brain is housed in rooted energy. The skull is bone, and bone is part of the root system. So that's actually very important, that if the root has a disruption, it's going to cause issues throughout the entire body. So let's talk about what an excessive root would look like. This is addictive behavior, hoarding, disordered eating, survival fears, excessive attention on money, like a desire for money and hoarding money. We see the exact opposite of that. So excessive root, no. Deficient root, family dysfunction, lack of grounding, not dependable. I don't think we saw that. In fact, it seems as though he's been very dependable his whole life and was able to be very dependable throughout this process. However, when there is a deficient root, there can be arousal issues, physical weakness, and fatigue. And this is where I think some of that energy shows up. A friend of his came out and said that he had intimacy issues, that he couldn't be intimate because of the lower back problems. And so that would count as a deficient root energy. But let's also look at the balanced root. A balanced root is a person who's physically active. They're able to provide for others and defend themselves and others. They have a healthy immune system and their survival needs are met, and they can maintain their strength and vitality. I don't think he lacks any vitality. Clearly has a point of view of defending others, and from all accounts, a very physically active person despite the injury. So I would say somewhere along the lines of being between balanced and a deficient root, which makes a lot of sense. So what seems to make the most sense to me, not from the manifesto itself, but from looking at all the reporting and the interviews with his friends after the fact, that what we really are seeing is isolation and the way that that chronic lower back pain shows up as an energy in the world, which causes a feeling of being unsafe and unable to have the kind of intimacy that is satisfying enough for us to make that our primary goal in life. If a person cannot express physical or emotional intimacy, then they will shift that energy outward and direct their energy into what they can affect, which is the impersonal, the wider world. If you can't exact the things that you need personally, then you start to think about what you can do that is not just about you, that is not personal. And that makes a lot of sense to me in this case. Hope it makes sense to you. Hope that was helpful. And of course, as always, every single person in this country is innocent until they are proven guilty. Everything that has been said, those are all allegations. And so with that, let us move into the main event, which is this personal energy reading that I was able to do with a lovely young woman named Clorissa. Her energy was fascinating to me. I mean, everyone's energy is fascinating to me, if I'm being totally honest. I love people and I love watching how they breathe and speak and move with their own energies. But I wanted to be really clear with you all about my process that you don't see as part of this video, because there's a pre-process that is really personal to me that I do off camera, because it's how I connect to my crown, how I connect to my spirit guides and what I'm here to do as my soul's purpose. And that begins with a meditation. Prior to the appointment, I sit, I breathe, I tune in, I focus on my own energy. I figure out where my energy is moving on that day, in that moment, in the present. And once I have taken that assessment, I set my energy aside. I white light myself. I clear things out. This is part of my protection. And then when they show up in the waiting room, their name pops up, I send them a little message that their energy reading has begun, and then I begin my second stage of meditation, which is the intuitive piece of this entire process. I sit, I breathe, and I invite their energy into me, and then I take whatever impressions come from that time that I'm spending. It takes me about 5 to 7 minutes, and then I write notes. And sometimes those notes are visualizations that came up while I was meditating, or feelings in my body, places that were highlighted, energies that were highlighted. And in this particular energy, one of the major things that came up was a lot of crown energy. And so we're going to talk about that in depth in the reading. So please enjoy this. I hope you learn a lot. I hope it's insightful for you to actually see my full process start to finish with a client. And if you have questions, please ask those questions below in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to read them. And I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so welcome. Thank you for choosing to share your energy with me. I appreciate you. I'll have you stand up for this next part. I'll ask you a few questions. You'll just answer them the best that you can. And then we'll talk about the physical energy and how that fits in with the overall energy that I picked up on before I brought you.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. All right, Clorissa, go ahead and take a nice deep breath for me. And take another deep breath that goes all the way down to your belly. Good. Okay. Describe for me in as much detail as possible your future best self.
Oh, my future best self?
Mhm.
Probably bougie. Definitely happy. I would have like the family I wanted, the dream house that I want, and like the nice car, nice job, just my own little utopia.
And what else is happening in that utopia?
Um, just having a family, having a husband, having more children, like vacations, just like the standard, like, I guess, American dream, but like centered around family.
Good. Good. Next question. Describe for me in as much detail as possible your favorite memory.
My favorite memory, maybe, I guess I'll go like, I'm not sure.
What's the first thing that's coming up?
Well, my baby, well, my daughter, she's the first thing I thought of.
Okay. And tell me about that memory that comes up.
I was just super happy because I finally became a mom. So it was like always something that I wanted as a young girl. So it just made me happy that I finally achieved that goal as to being a mommy.
Good.
Yeah.
And how was that experience for you? Describe it for me a little bit.
It made me happy. I felt complete. Like I felt like that family unit that I've always wanted to be. Just even thinking about it now is making me kind of emotional. But yeah, it was a very happy time because I something I wanted for so long and I got it. It made me really happy.
Good. Just making some notes. Good. Last question. Describe for me in as much detail as possible who you used to be.
Oh my goodness, I used to be a chaos. I used to be a wreck. I used to be very sad, very depressed, very angry. I've always had an idea of who I wanted to be, and I've always stepped towards that person. But like where I started from was just chaotic.
And where do you feel like that chaos was living within you?
Maybe I would say probably here in my head, definitely my head, maybe my heart and my head.
Okay. Very good. Have a seat. Let's chat. Okay. See, that wasn't so bad, was it?
It wasn't, but I just get nervous.
That's okay. It's normal. Like I said, it's not a normal thing to be doing. So the normal reaction is to be a bit nervous. So let's talk first about the energy that came up before I brought you in the room. So the first thing that came up was a lot of cerebral energy, a lot of thoughts. Suddenly I felt like my thoughts were racing. There was just like a lot of
Racing thoughts.
yeah, like a really fast movement in terms of thinking. I wrote witty, intelligent, fast thinker, fast talker, lots of willpower, and there was a big feeling of activation at my solar plexus, which is the willpower center, which is, I knew I wouldn't have any trouble hearing you. You use your voice, you support your voice, you actually speak very nicely in the center of your sound. It's a little bit pitched up, a little higher when you get nervous, but for the most part, you speak in the middle of the meat of your voice, as we say. The other thing that came up after that was all about money. Lots thoughts about money, not having enough, needing to have more, just that real energy of striving and wanting. Particularly, I mean, money is the thing that just keeps coming up, that there's a lot of energy. And that obviously came up in the reading as well. So that's showing up in your energy. There's a kind of a warning message though with that, is that you have to be really careful about being in the mindset of what you don't have. in thinking about what you want, not letting a lack mentality take over, not thinking about what you want so much that you forget about what you have
I
already.
literally just came to that realization like this week alone where it hit me where I'm like, I'm so focused on what I don't have that I'm not appreciative of what I do have because some of the stuff that I do have became vulnerable. And now I'm like, I don't want to lose these things. And I'm
Ah,
getting so upset about what I don't have. And I'm not even focused on what I currently have, which is a blessing.
so that's big. It's
Yeah.
great to have goals, but those goals are achieved through the gratitude of appreciating what you already have, because more can't come to you if you aren't acknowledging what you've got.
Yeah.
And the mindset about gratitude is truly about if you can focus and be grateful for what you have, you recognize that you have the things that you want. As the things that come toward you, it's it's about your mindset, because there are people who have it all,
Yeah.
but they're just striving for more and more that they don't even realize they have it all.
Yeah.
And so what makes any of us any different? If we can't really acknowledge what we've got, it'll never be enough. And we will always be in that place of needing something else.
Which I don't want to be.
So, and then the final energy that came up was a bit heavy. It was kind of a weighty energy. And this was all about disappointment and betrayal. And in particular, betrayal is kind of felt in the sides of the body. It shows up as kind of tension and stress around the kidneys and the things that we are meant to let go of that we're still holding on to will show up in the energetic body as sort of weight or tension or tightness right around here. So,
Not even in my, so I feel
well,
like I always go like,
we'll
okay.
get to that. We'll get to that. This
So I
is,
have to remind myself, drop your shoulders.
yes, we do. And that actually strongly came up in the physical,
Okay.
but in the energy, there's stuff that you're holding on to that you need to let go of. And it particularly, I wrote down, justice needs to be done. That there's this feeling of retribution is not the right word, but just feeling like you deserve a better outcome than you got.
Yeah, I feel like that a lot.
Okay. So just beware that that feeling of, it's kind of similar. It's about striving, wanting something that you think you deserve to have, that you're pulling out here, but it's really about recognize what you're holding on to now and what you need to let go of in order to make space. And sometimes that energy of disappointment pulls us back, and it keeps us in the place that we were instead of allowing us to be where we are and where we're going. Okay. So now let's talk about,
My shoulders, yeah.
okay. So when we start the physical reading, the first thing I always like to do is take a look at the breath, because I want to see how your body processes breath. Where does it go? Where does it not go? And in particular, when I give the instruction to take a deep breath, is this like a subconscious command for you to relax? And when the body receives that subconscious command, in order to take that breath, it starts to move the things that it needs to move in order to find that release. And first thing I wrote down, you had what I call a baptism breath, where the eyes close and the body goes back and pulls back. And where it's pulling back is right here. And in the second breath, when I asked you to take a deep breath, that's when the shoulders activated and came up and then down. And then you sort of leaned over to the right side.
Okay.
There's a bit of an imbalance in the way that you're holding your body in general, but most of that tension that you're carrying is happening here. And that showed right up when you went to take that second breath. So again, our body basically highlights the places where we're holding too much. The shoulders are what we call the burden center. It's where we carry the weight of the world. It's where we put all of our obligations, all of our stress, all the things we have to get done, especially time of year. You got to be really careful with yourself about how much you're putting on your plate. If you can't do it with joy, let it go.
Okay.
Because the outcome will be filled with the stress that you took on to create the outcome.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
It's like that thing of I think about this. I just came from the grocery store and I was like, oh my gosh, it's the day before Thanksgiving. It's going to be crazy in there. It's going to be a zoo. And I had like worked myself all up that I had to go do this thing and I have to do it now. And it was going to be terrible and it was going to be awful. And then I walked in there with all my stress about that and it was fine.
Like
There-
barely anybody was in there.
it wasn't crazy like I thought it would be.
Yeah.
They had plenty of stuff on the shelves. There weren't things that I tried to find that I couldn't. And yet, because I had put it on myself as this stressful thing, I was carrying stress that had no place in the actual outcome. So I brought the stress.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure I bring all my stress.
Really careful about bringing the stress to a situation where there actually isn't any.
Yeah.
And if I had entered that situation without the stress and I had encountered a stressful situation, guess what? I would have been more relaxed before encountering that. And I would have been more clear-minded about how to handle it. Okay. So then we get into the questions. Now, I ask these questions really slow because I want to see what your body does as it anticipates the question. I want to see how your thought process moves through your body as you start hearing what is coming toward you. And the immediate response from you was to rub your root, a little self-soothing action to kind of hold on to your body and give yourself that sense of connection. Even though it's connection from the self, it's like closing the circuit. So your energy is not spilling out here. It's all staying in. But in particular, when we soothe at the root, that's about creating safety, security, and trust. It's trying to ground is what you're trying to do, which is not a bad thing, but it is a habit. And it came up a lot. Pretty much throughout the reading, that was one of your pretty consistent habitual movements and actions. The other one is pulling the lips in while you think. While you're processing, you stop the energy that's flowing to your center of communication in order to keep it up here. And this is part of those racing thoughts and those spinning thoughts. They need an outlet. And if it's always going to be, well, this.
I try not to say like the wrong thing. More so if I am if I'm upset, I try not to speak because my mouth can get a little crazy. So I try to control what I say. Well, more so when I'm upset is when I try to just stop talking and try to control until I can calm down so I can properly communicate what I'm trying to say. Because if not, I'm gonna say something reckless and then that's gonna make it worse. And so it's just easier not to say anything.
So again, there's anticipatory energy. I'm going to pop off. I'm going to say the wrong thing and then it's going to go left. Well, there's a balance between saying your truth and saying it like you mean it, because if we keep always suppressing and we never allow ourselves to say the thing that needs to be said, we start to lose track of what we really feel, what we need to say, and what we don't. Yeah. There's compacting happening. There's so much thought that's not getting released, even when you're not angry. You weren't upset. There was not a lot of stuff that was going to come out that you necessarily needed to filter, but the filtering is such a strong habit that you do it even when you don't need it. Yeah. So that's the thing, is it also preventing you from having that flow of free speech when you're in a safe space, when you can say the thing that's on your mind, because the habit gets so strong of suppressing that we then are no longer really choosing. It's choosing for us. It's saying every time you have a thought, measure it.
So many. I don't know how to stop my racing thoughts. I wish I did, because there's always going on in there.
So we can talk about some things that are going to help that. So let's come back to that, because that's not an unsolvable energy.
Okay.
It really are real tools and things you can do to work with that. So once you started to get into it, probably bougie, nice little laugh. But again, that holding, that root rubbing, that pulling the hands behind you. Okay, that's a bit, again, this putting our hands behind us is basically the same thing as doing this.
Okay.
And really look at that picture, right? it's one of the things is this is basically what I call shackling, where you are arresting yourself to stop the forward movement of energy, to stop the flow of expression. And when you release that and the expression starts to flow, even when you got emotional, that was when your body started to be in flow. When you started to show me integration, when you started to gesture from your root and from your heart and to your head, that stuff actually was effectively channeling your communication through your physical energy. Whereas prior to that, everything was kind of closed down and small. So there's a preventing of your energy from expanding, even while you talked about being happy, having a dream house, a nice job, a nice car. Again, nice, dream, happy, pretty unspecific language. What does happiness mean? What does that look like? What is that vision? What does it feel like to have that? How can you be more specific with yourself about what happiness is and what it does? How can you be more specific with yourself about what your dream house is? Where is it? What does it look like? And the more that becomes part of the dream, the more likely you are to be able to walk toward it. It's a bit like knowing you want a really nice dress and you want to look great at a party, and you go into the store and
I just know it when I see it.
you'll know it when you see it, but can you open up your options to more of the things that you actually want if you're more specific? If you know you want to wear a black dress, you won't spend all your time sifting through all the red dresses.
Okay.
Right? And not that it's bad to have all the options in front of you, but a lot of times the manifestation is really about plugging it into the GPS and going toward it, rather than just getting in the car and driving around and hope you end up somewhere nice.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's possible. It can happen. You might drive past the most perfect sunset and say, oh, I'm going to pull over here and look at this. Or you might say, you know where the sunsets are really beautiful? At this point right here where this mountain is and this thing is, and that's where I'm going. So it's just about having a bit more direction by being clear with yourself about what these things mean to you. What does dream house mean? And the clearer you get about that, the closer you get to it.
Okay.
Okay. Because then
I
you
don't know how to be specific about that.
Ah.
Well, not just like the dream house itself. Like I think of other things that I want, and honestly, it is very vague because I don't know. Like I don't know how to be more specific. Or I feel like if I am being too specific, then I'm going to rule out all the other good qualities or possibilities just because I'm like one track mind on this one thing.
Yeah.
So I was
Well,
like, I don't know.
it's really more of an idea of set it and forget it. Be specific about what it is that you're moving toward, and then let the universe let it show up for you.
Okay.
So you don't have to micromanage it, but this also helps keep us from thinking that we got what we wanted and then actually learning more about it and realizing, oh no, actually this wasn't it.
Yeah, well, I guess
Yeah,
what I'm really speaking on is more so like having a partner, like finding someone to, date and then get married and things like that. So I can't imagine what this man would look like or what he would be like because I have no idea.
Mhm.
And I just think about it's not specific enough and I feel like I should be. I just don't know how to be.
I think it's important to really recognize what it is that you need as a compliment. So this is where getting to know yourself on a really deep level helps you get to know what it is that you're looking for in a partner. And you don't necessarily have to have a checklist. But if there are things that are important to you about the life that you want, it will be much more clear to you when you meet a person that fits in with that you can grow together, because that's the other thing. You don't know who someone's going to be in the future. You know who they are now. All you know is what it is that you are trying to achieve. So if you know that you want to have 10 kids, but you're so open to someone who doesn't know if they even want kids,
Oh, that's a deal breaker. If you don't want kids, it's not going to work.
Okay, that's something where you can be really specific.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. That's going to be the difference between a lot of people and a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And it's not about ruling people out because they're not good enough. It's about being really clear with yourself. And the clearer you are with yourself, the more you're able to reflect in the world and communicate clearly with the world about what you're looking for. So much of the time when we're so open, it leads us to be really vague, and then we can't rule anybody out.
Okay.
And then we end up wasting a lot of time. Right? So there's a balance, learning about people, getting to know people. Great. Wasting your time figuring out, is this person going to show up as the thing that I might maybe want, is real hard.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what you want, you don't know if they fit in. You don't know if you're headed in the right direction or if you're headed in the same direction or not. So it's really about getting in touch with you.
I'm trying.
Sure.
I'm going to therapy for years.
So it's more about trying on the specifics.
Okay.
Right? This is where the knowledge center comes in and is really helpful.
Okay.
Okay. Doing a little bit of research, right? To use the dream house analogy. Really asking yourself, do I need to live in the mountains, in a city, by the beach?
I want to be like in the suburbs. I want like 3 to 4 bedrooms. I mean, I'm not opposed to an upstairs. I think that would be kind of cool. I would kind of like that. I don't want a pool.
Great.
And I want a really large like backyard and a really large front yard. And I want to be completely gated because I don't want to see anybody walking past my home.
Okay. So
and if I
now
had upstairs, I want like an upstairs like porch so I can sit on the porch but like upstairs.
Great. This is already such a better way. Did you notice how you were speaking with your hands? And
yeah, I do that. I do that a lot.
Right, but you didn't do it at all when you said happy, dream house, nice job, nice car.
I think I was just I was restricting myself.
And so when you unrestrict, your body gets into alignment. You start to speak with your energy, and that energy exudes. And guess what? The universe is all energy. Yeah. You speak that out loud, particularly to me and theoretically to the whole world. Yeah. What does that do? That's manifesting.
Yeah, I'm a little shy, and I take my time to kind of warm up a little bit. But once I do warm up and I get comfortable, my personality shows, and I can like show who I really am as a person. But not in the beginning because I'm a little shy.
It's all about being specific with the self, right? Whether or not you're specific with me, I want you to draw that difference between what it feels like when you express your true energy and what it feels like when you are suppressing it.
Yeah, I can see the difference. I feel like I'm more bubbly, I'm more light, I'm more happy, I'm more fun. But when I'm suppressing it, I feel like it can read as awkward, like standoffish. I think that's the word I'm looking for. I would want to say like standoffish, kind of cold, which is not like who I am. It's just like, I guess it kind of is who I am because I'm more of like, if I don't know a person, I'm very closed off. But once I get to know them, like I'll open up. Like when I'm at work, if I don't know you, we're probably not going to speak. But if you're sitting next to me, we're going to be best friends. Good. So I don't know how to merge those two personalities, I guess, together.
Well, you don't necessarily have to merge them together, but just make sure that your focus is not so external about what they think, that it's actually really about you and your experience.
I know. That is something I'm working on about. I used to focus on a lot, even in relationships, I would focus a lot on, do they like me? Like, what can I do to get them to like me? And I've been trying to switch that into, well, do I like them? Like, are they even meant to be in my life? Like, are we even friends? Like, is this a good person?
Yes. Do I like them? Do I enjoy being around them? Not do they enjoy being around me? Am I having a good time? And do I like who I am when I am around them?
That's a good one. I like that question.
Keep asking yourself about you. because
Okay.
then it will help you see where and how you fit into the world around you. And that self-reflection is going to get deeper and more specific and deeper and deeper and deeper. Reductive language, once we got deeper, when I asked you to be more descriptive, family, husband, standard American dream. I mean, that's
Yeah.
nothing standard about that. That's
Culture, yeah. I think everyone's dream is their own
right.
dream.
We tend to have the feeling that everybody wants what I want. No, they don't.
Yeah. I
You
have to also remember not everybody is who I am. Like everybody's not a Clarissa, everyone's not. And because I'm pretty what am I trying to say? I am pretty solitary for the most part, to where I'm always like, I'm a homebody. I don't really go out and stuff like that. So when I encounter other people, and I have to remind myself, like, they're not like me. They're not going to think like me. They're not who I am. They don't have this type of compassion. I always get kind of like shocked and surprised by the fact that not everybody is like me. And it confuses me sometimes.
and that's part of having that confidence to say, I am actually very unique.
Yeah.
We often think, oh, everybody wants X. Everybody wants to have a nice house and a nice car. No, they don't. Some
Yeah. So,
people don't want to own a home ever. Some people don't care at all about cars
yeah.
or what kind of car they drive. They're super happy to take the train every day. So the more you honor the specificity of you and what you desire, the more you start to feel yourself being connected to those elements of your life and able to appreciate them
Yeah.
in uniqueness.
Well, sometimes I also feel like I have like negative energy and I don't know what to do about that, because I don't like, I'm not like a mean person. I'm not like a horrible person. I feel like I'm actually a really good person, and I'm very caring. I'm very compassionate. I have a lot of empathy, but sometimes I don't know if it's because of like how I grew up or like things that I've been through. I feel like sometimes my energy can be negative, and I am doing my best to kind of clear that, because I don't want it, and I don't feel like it makes me a pleasure to be around, because it's not fun for me to be around me when I'm like that. So I can only imagine no one else would want to be around that.
Mhm. So a little self-forgiveness will go a long way.
Yeah.
And I mean that as an action. Remind yourself and tell yourself, I forgive you for not being the greatest person of all time. I forgive you for having a bad attitude that day. It's really okay that you weren't feeling up to XYZ. Having that conversation with the internal self, that's what helps us let those things go.
Okay, so just be a little bit more honest with myself.
And more
I can
and
definitely,
kind,
yeah,
and forgive yourself in the way you would forgive someone else. Oh, they're not in the best mood today. You're not going to take that with you for the rest of your life.
yeah,
You're going to be like, oh, that's okay. You weren't feeling it today. It's fine. But you
yeah.
won't offer yourself that same exact ability to not internalize it, to not punish yourself for it.
Yeah,
That's
my inner voice can be very critical sometimes. And that voice is my mother's voice. So I don't like, I feel like if my mother wasn't as critical as she was growing up, maybe my inner voice, my inner dialogue would be different. So I'm often trying to combat that. And so like with my daughter, I'm trying not to repeat that. I speak positivity into her. And I guess I don't do it to myself enough. Even though I'm giving it, I'm not giving it to myself, is what I'm thinking.
so you know exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
Self-care really is about doing for yourself all of the things that you do for other people that you appreciate. You're doing it because you need it, because you would appreciate it. That's why you're able to give that to your daughter, because you know how important it would have been if you had that.
Yeah.
So give it to yourself now.
Yeah. I feel like
You're
I'm like reparenting myself.
you are. You
Yeah.
are. We all are. You're your own little baby. When you look at the grand scheme of life, you're a baby. Treat
Oh,
yourself
yeah.
like treat yourself like you're a sweet little innocent baby and you're just learning and you're just trying. And especially up here, our subconscious minds are 5-year-olds. They don't understand the word no. So if you say, don't be down on yourself, don't think bad about yourself, don't, all it's going to do is hear, be down on yourself, think bad.
Yes, I try to flip that. I do try to speak it in the positive sense, where I'm like, all right, be easy on yourself, like do
Yeah,
good. Like I try not to speak the
yeah.
negative version, because that's very true. Like I agree with that.
Good. That will help a lot. Um, yeah. So second question, Hands went behind the back again, soothing the root again. So that habit came back up. And then we got to your baby, my daughter, super happy, finally achieved this goal of being a mom. Beautiful energy. Uh, Happy and complete family unit. You showed me that integration. This was where your energy started to flow. It started to open up, and you actually started to allow what was coming up to move through your body rather than keeping it inside. And as you started to get emotional, went back to that root rub. So again, it shows me what that root rub was doing for you earlier. Even though you weren't emotional at that point, that root rubbing was helping you self-soothe.
Yeah.
Came
'Cause
back.
that's like my nervous energy, I feel like. And I even sometimes I feel like my nervous energy like gets translated like to other people as like bad energy. Like, and it's like, I don't know. And I wish I knew how to not be so nervous, I guess. So I feel like I rub myself to kind of
Yeah.
calm those nerves. I gotta put that energy somewhere, because if not, it'll probably just come out of my mouth and I'll sound crazy.
Okay. So one of the things, let's talk about this then. When we are connecting to our root in order to self-soothe, typically what that means is that we're not trusting the foundation that we actually have, the earth. That's not going anywhere. It's not moving all about. I mean, unless there's an earthquake, but for the most part, it's there to hold us up. And in your body, there's a lot of tension and tightness in the knees and in the thighs. You tend to lock at the knees. And so when we lock at the knees, we're actually not feeling the floor. We're holding ourselves up away from the earth rather than letting there be a tiny little bit of breath in the knees. A tiniest bit of bend helps us feel our feet, helps us feel grounded and supported. And we need to practice that. So the big thing for you in terms of relieving some of this nervous energy is number one, breath. Number two, softness, and let the earth hold you.
Okay.
You can build that by either lying flat on your back, putting yourself in contact with the earth, going outside, grounding, getting your feet on the dirt, the ground, the grass, the sand, okay? But reminding yourself that the earth is meant to hold you up. You don't have to hold yourself up. You can actually release and let go and let the support that.
Oh yeah, I'm not used to that.
I know.
Yeah, I'm not used to that. I feel like I've only ever had to have my back, like I don't feel like I have. I guess because I really feel like that comes from I'm trying to find my words, not feeling like supported. And a lot of the times I do feel unsafe. And that's something that I have been working on, like in the past few years, is to feel safe, because I don't feel safe sometimes.
Yeah. So that's part of that. That lack of safety shows up in your physical body.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's that old stuff. The root is all the old stuff. It's that early life stuff where we didn't feel like we could rely on the environment to take care of us. We have to take care of ourselves. And that turns into tension and habitual use. And this, because we're pulling up away from the earth. We're trying
That's like my safety. Like I feel safe now.
right.
Yeah.
And so you have to teach your body that there are new ways to feel safe. And the way we do that is just by practicing, creating a new habit to overwrite the old one, and a new habit that's easier to do and more efficient. This is a lot of work.
Yeah, when I catch myself doing it, I tell myself, I'm like, you're safe now. It's okay. Because I do feel like, it's like my way of like just kind of protecting myself. I feel like this would be like my full body motion if I allowed myself to do it. So when I catch myself, I do try to remind myself like, we're safe. Like we're okay.
Okay. So bigger than just catching yourself and correcting it when you notice it, which is fine to do. What I want you to start doing is creating the habit before you feel the stress and the uncertainty and the insecurity. By having a practice of getting in contact with the floor, put yourself on the floor, let your shoulders relax back, put your feet flat on the floor so your knees are pointing up so that your lower back can let go and relax into the ground. Then your belly is going to start to do the breathing instead of your shoulders.
Okay.
And you start to create that habit in a state of calm and relax and release. When you get up and you go to move throughout the world, some of that's going to translate. And then the more you practice it, the more it will translate, rather than
Yeah.
Because again, that's the same thing
Because
as
sometimes I'll do it and don't realize it. I don't realize when they go up. I just realize that they are up, and I'm like, all right. Like,
right. So I want you to develop a habit where you are letting them release into the earth, letting go, letting gravity do it for you, and then let it set it and forget it. Do the practice and then move throughout your life. And if you do notice it, let yourself come back. But if your only way of correcting is this, then you never build a new good habit.
okay.
So we need the good habit to start to fold into your
I just need that step forward. Okay.
just creating a new habit when you're
Okay.
in a state of calm. When you're in that place where you can relax and release, when you get home, that's when you rebuild the body and teach it what that feels like so that it starts to realize, oh, that's comfortable. And then it will start to default to that as comfort instead of this, which is
Okay.
not actual comfort. It just feels that way because of all the tension we're creating, which feels like
Yeah.
we're doing something, right?
Yeah.
Good. So let's talk about the racing thoughts and how to work with that.
Please, because this has been something going on for so long, and I don't like it.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things with that is thought is very connected to breath, right? We call an intake of breath is called an inspiration. It's inspire. You take
Okay.
in breath, right? And when you expire, that's your last breath.
Okay.
Right? To inspire helps to facilitate new thought.
Okay.
We have to let the old thoughts expire and be released and come out. So the first place you want to start to put your attention in is how you're breathing and
Okay.
practice without the tension, without this, right? But allowing yourself to focus on what it feels like to ground and breathe and to practice that habit so it shows up for you
Okay.
in higher stress situations. Okay. Habit. So then once it comes to breathing, this is where a meditative practice comes in. Now, people think that meditation is about, oh, I got to clear my mind, but then I sit down and I just have racing thoughts and I can't sit and I can't do all that. That means you really need it. I mean, you
No,
need to,
I've
yeah.
gotten better at that. I can kind of
Okay.
clear my mind out and just be at peace. And I
Good.
mean, I kind of try to think about nothing. I don't know if that's how I'm supposed to do it. Like,
Okay, so I actually think most people think this, that they're supposed to try to clear their mind and not
okay.
think about anything and remove it all. Here's what I actually want you to do. I want you to listen.
Okay.
Listen to what's going on up there. What are the thoughts? Which ones keep coming back? When you go to sit down, what is your inner monologue trying to tell you? What is it trying to get through to you that it feels like it doesn't have the opportunity for you to just sit and listen to all those thoughts? The racing thoughts are usually happening when we're trying to do something else. No, I want to focus on this, but now I have all these thoughts. No, I want to sleep, but I'm having all these thoughts. No, I want to do this thing, but I can't get out of my head. Give those thoughts a place to go. Give
Yeah.
them a
Well, I have a journal. I don't know if that's what you mean, but I do my best to kind of write it in my journal
yep.
because they will stay in my head and they won't leave.
So this is part of it, and journaling really works. The next step, I want you to take what you write in that journal. So first, here's how I want you to do it. Meditate, sit, listen. And when I say meditate, I mean just listen. Sit
Okay.
and listen. Don't put it out yet. Just hear it all. Let it come up. Feel what that chatter is like, where it's coming from. If you feel tension or tightness in your body at any place while those thoughts are happening, see if you can open that up with breath, soften the body, give in to the earth, let it go into a more stable thing than you, which is the earth, okay? And then once you have done that for maybe 10 minutes, then you're going to write your journal.
Okay.
You're going to reflect on everything that was coming up, and more things might start to flow out as you start to write it down. Okay. Once you've written that journal, then you're going to take it and you're going to read it out loud,
Oh my goodness.
because then you're going to actually listen to it.
Right.
And then what's going to happen is that feedback loop of your mind is trying to tell you more and more stuff. Now it knows that you've heard it. And then you can start to reorganize some of that thought. Oh, well, this thing is just about this email that I need to send. So first step, I'm going to send the email. But if you're not really listening to what that thought is, and it's just turning into a stress thought, Oh, I have so much to do. I have so much to do. But what do you have to do? Right? If you can start to get organized and really communicate with yourself about, oh, the 5 things I need to do are,
They feel like so much when it's in my head.
right? Exactly. So giving it that chance to download, to write it down, to process it, and then you can say, oh, well, it actually is just this. It helps to quantify it and put it into measurable and something you can actually process. When
Okay.
it's up here and it's just spinning and there's nothing for it to hold on to, or it just goes in the journal and then it gets shut up and put away, it doesn't get
Yeah,
processed.
because I dread reading it back. Well, more so like if I feel upset and there is something I want to talk about, I already know it's gonna be like, because I'll put like my raw thoughts. Like I will put in what I won't say out loud to like people because I don't want to upset, I don't want to make the situation worse. So I will put those raw thoughts as I'm hearing them in my mind, and I'll put them down. But then when I go back and reread it, I'm just like, oh my God, I was so mad, I was so hurt, like just these feelings. It's just
Yeah.
takes me aback whenever I read it again.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I'd rather you not just read it and put it back in here.
Okay. So like say it out loud as I'm reading it. Okay. Okay. I
Because
never
guess
tried
what?
that.
It goes here, you put it on the page, and then you read it and you put it right back in here.
Okay. That makes sense.
Process it.
Okay.
Get it out of you by making sound. Let the vibrations that are coming from that negative stuff get out of you. Release them. And if it brings up tears, great. Those are the toxins that were coming with that thought, and they need to get out.
No, I'm gonna cry. I'll cry. That's probably the best way that I release my stress is I'll cry about it. Like I'll do what I need to do, but I might have to cry first. Like
As you should. Crying is a fantastic regulator, right?
I know. It's just sometimes I feel like the way I grew up, like my family, I'm the emotional one in my family. So I don't know, I'm seeing like an alien because they just don't get it. Like they don't understand how I can cry. Like one time I asked my sister, I was like, well, when was the last time you cried? And then she told me about when after she just gave birth to her son. And I was like, that was 3 years ago. Like what, I cried yesterday. Like, so like,
Sometimes people need a little bit of encouragement,
yeah.
need a little
So I
coach.
try to like be true to my feelings, but then I also just think about, I don't know, my family, they're like, suck it up, like don't cry and this and that. And I'm like, I gotta cry.
And this is not uncommon. A lot of us have to be the emotional one, the sensitive one, the one who feels their feelings. And that's what makes you you. That's
I feel like
why
that gets me rejected a lot when I do that.
rejection is protection.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
If people can't be with you when you're with your emotions, they're really not your people. And
I
sometimes you have to let yourself, be who you are fully before other people try to make you who they want you to be.
Well, with those specific family members, I actually don't. I've completely pulled away, to be honest. Like, I'm not even going to see them tomorrow. I'm going to my best friend's house, who's always been with me. Like, if I'm upset and I need to cry, she was always the first person that I would call because she'll sit with me in my emotions and I don't get judged for it. So I feel like even with a partner, I feel like that is definitely a quality I need to have with a partner because it's not going to work if I can't come to them and be upset. So yeah,
Sometimes this is why sometimes healing is a lonely journey.
it is.
It means we have to clear out the people that are actually preventing us from being able to be who we really are.
Yeah.
That's okay. And it can be a hard thing, but
For the best. I was kind of sad at first because I'm like, this is going to be the first year where I didn't know what like Thanksgiving or Christmas was going to look like. But I feel like it's better because I honestly, I would rather be alone. It still kind of hurts, but I would rather be alone than to kind of like fake the funk with people where I feel like there's a big elephant in the room where I got to walk around you and try not to trigger you and your feelings and your emotions when I just want to be me and be myself and have a good time. So
when you make the space, the right people come into your life.
so that's what I'm doing right now because I'm very much isolated. I'm not talking to really anybody, just truly trying to focus on me, my home, my daughter, just my life right now. And that's it. I think that's all I have capacity for, which is why I did this. And I
Yeah.
appreciate you having me.
I'm so appreciative to you for being so open and for sharing. And um, you got a lot that you can start to put into action, into physical reality, so that you don't have to just do it all up here. Let it come into the physical world. When in doubt, when you find yourself in that spinning thought, see what you can do physically. Do you need to
Okay.
sing? Do you need to go for a walk? Do you need to go for a run? Do you need to lift some weights? How can you move the energy that's compacted up here down and out and through? Do you need to talk about it? Do you need to go and moan and groan about it? Do you need to
Yeah.
try to bring your healing into the physical realm so that it's not all so knowledge based and so information based? Because that's gonna clear some space. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna definitely give that a try. So I want to feel free. I want to feel light. I want to feel flowy. So yeah, I feel like those are all the things I want. And I just want to be happy. I just want to be light. I want to be joy.
And you are already.
Yeah.
You exude joy. You have beautiful energy. And the more you let yourself be that, and the more you let yourself show that, the more you will know that you've achieved it. It's
Okay,
not,
I would
it's not
agree.
over
I feel
the,
like the more I feel safe, because I feel like I am also guarded, so people don't get to see that out of me, even though I know it exists. That, and I'm afraid of like being taken advantage of, because I that's the whole thing. But so I feel like the more I do ground myself, like you mentioned, and just kind of relax, that tension, or not relax it, but actually work through and process that tension. I feel like that would make me be able to kind of let who I know I am flow to other people for them to get to see it.
yes.
Yeah.
Doing a little stretch,
Yeah.
some of these arms behind the back, lift them up, start to teach your body that there's more than one thing that this muscle can do. Okay. All right, Clarissa.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
So nice to meet
You're
you.
so amazing. It was nice to meet you. Like I got to actually talk to you.
Oh, you're adorable. You're adorable. I'm excited for people to see your light and who you are, because you do show up as the thing that you think you are striving for. You're there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry now. Thank you. Because that means a lot. Because that's all I want to be is I just want to be me. So I appreciate you validating that.
You are. You're
Thank you.
beautiful. Your energy is beautiful. You are a light. I mean, start to finish. Beautiful.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. So nice to meet you,
It's
and
nice to meet you too.
drink a nice glass of water, and it's going to help flow through some of the energy.
Yeah. These are more so happy tears. It feels
Yeah.
good that somebody else who never met me before is seeing how I feel about myself on the inside. So I know what I'm doing is working, and it's a good thing. So
It is.
thank you.
It is. You're welcome. Have a good night, okay?
You too.
Bye, honey.
So
Bye.
that's the process. That's how you use energy reading in order to feel people and tune in to what their life could be if they had the information to know how to balance themselves out and how they really show up in the world. And that is one of my major goals and part of my purpose here. So I deeply appreciate you for being here through that. And I hope that it was helpful for you. And we will do this again very soon, especially now that I've gotten all these energy readings up and running. So if you would like to have a free personal energy reading, the signups roll open. So we're already into January. So if you want to take a look, I'll put a little link below so that you can sign up if you would like to. If you want a personal energy reading that's not broadcast here, I can also do that for you. So I'll link that below, and you can sign up for that on my website, and we can do a personal energy reading that's just for the two of us. And of course, I am a coach and I'm a guide. I actually don't even like the word coach, because I feel like a coach is somebody who stands on the sidelines and yells at you about what you should be doing better, whereas a guide is someone who's walked a path before and guides you so that you can walk the path on your own in the future. And so that is what I hope to do. I hope to be a guide for each and every one of you. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.